Hello, thanks for joining us once again. And for many people in the world, the subject of how they are able to tolerate themselves also reside in the type of religion that they practice. Well, it depends on what type of religion it is, whether it is Islam, Christianity, we're talking about Hinduism or Buddhism, etc. In our part of the world, we're talking about Africa, and we'll have to zero into West Africa and Ghana. We know that side by side, Christians and Muslims live together. And within this period, we've just had Muslims marking Eid al-Adha. There's always the talk about how religious tolerance seems to have promoted national cohesion and also ensured Ghana's own development. But how effectively has that been done? And how can it be done in the future without any challenges? We have to help us do a lot more discussions on the subject. Sheikh Arimi Yao Shaibu. He is an Islamic scholar, and he is also, as I know, an educationist. Thanks for joining me, Sheikh.
Thank you so much.
Okay. When we're talking about the subject of religious tolerance, is it the fact that, well, because in Ghana we have predominantly a lot more Muslims, and as well as we have a lot more Christians, and as a result of that, they have no choice but than to live together? Or is just because, well, this is what the constitution of our country says, and so you just have to abide by?
Thank you very much, and let me use the opportunity to wish Muslims all over the world, and particularly in Ghana here, a happy Eid al-Adha celebration. Respect to the tolerance and how we relate, several factors have played a part, but generally, I think the Ghanaian by nature is a peaceful person. I think that is one of the strongest feature or character of the Ghanaian, apart from all other negatives that I know. That if time permits, we can mention them. But I know that the Ghanaian Muslim by nature, the Ghanaian citizen by nature, is a peace-loving person. Even in policy, you notice that the moment you are presented as somebody who shows a little bit of violence, I mean, everybody rejects you. Yeah, so that's one of the things. Secondly, our educational system in Ghana here has been very, very helpful. The boarding school system in itself have brought together so many well-placed Muslims and Christians together. They have stayed together. The traditional communitarian kind of African behavior in itself has also played a role in this. So the traditional people have received Muslims in their domain, and we have lived together, and there have been conversions across, and so on and so forth. In fact, it's interesting to notice that there are a lot of Christian homes that have Muslims in there because of marriages. So you have some children in the same family, a section in the Muslim side and a section within the Christian side. And so if you are fighting, you're going to kill your own your own brother. So this, and then this added to this is, in my view, the understanding of the Ghanaian Muslim also, that the religion itself teaches us to live at peace with people of other faith. And I think
we have to even take our own president as an example, President John Dramani Mahama. He was born to a Muslim father.
Exactly.
All right?
Yes.
But he has brothers who are Muslims.
Up to now,
he has brothers who are
Ibrahim
Christians.
and those people
and
you mentioned here and there.
Okay. Now, how is it that we've been able to condone this? Is it because also we have customs within our traditional setup that tend to tolerate communal living?
Yeah, it's a very important point you are making. Like if you go back to when we were studying traditional African religion at the university, I mean, Professor Mbiti, for example, in describing how relationships are within the African context and consciousness, says that relationships are described in the context of I am because we are, and we are because I am. So that communitarian, and Professor Dechi has also put it, also described that he says it clearly that the relationships in Africa are communitarian, and that's why even in the way that we stay, our compound homes, the way that it is structured in such a way that some people call it even the United Nations system, where in a big home you share the same bathhouse, the same toilet facility, which though we don't encourage it in modern times, but that it brought us together, the same kitchen in this own big home with this same kitchen, and so on and so forth. And you'll be surprised that a non-Muslim woman cooks in the same compound home, and she lives with a Muslim, and she cooks, and when she cooks, she call Muhammadu, come and take your food. Though the parent did not make a contribution there, but that she's so much attached that, and this helps the children to grow, knowing that this gentleman is not a Muslim, but we are living together. And I think that Ghana has been special in this particular kind of description. It's helping us so much, and I think we should carry it forward.
I've known you as more of an educationist, and later on getting to know you as an Islamic scholar.
Yeah.
Now, in trying to imbibe in very young people, not only in Muslim communities, but in very much intermixed communities, how do you make sure, as far as in the educational setup, as far as also in extracurricular activities, you tend to encourage a lot more young people to be very much tolerant of each other, despite the diverse religious beliefs that they may be having? Yeah,
it's so interesting. Already our educational system has been tailored, our curriculum has been tailored to promote the virtue or the value of tolerance. For example, the teaching of RME, for example, religious stroke moral education, which focuses on three main religions recognized in this country: Islam, Christianity, and traditional religion, in which the Christian child is compelled by the demand of our curriculum to learn about Islam, and the Muslim child is compelled by the demand of our curriculum to learn about Christianity and traditional religion. And you see, when people tend to understand the basics of your religion and understand why you behave in the way that you do, they tend to be more sympathetic, friendly, and respect what you do. I have been telling people that there are for us to be tolerant, two key areas need to be understood. One, the common grounds of all the variety of religions that we practice, and then what in the study of religions have been taught to understand to mean the areas we call the non-negotiables. Non-negotiables, these are the sharp variations which no religion will want to give off. I mean, for example, when you talk of the Trinity in Christianity, it's core to the belief, and there's no way you can have a Christian who rejects Trinity. And this is an area where you need to be respectful of. So respect that kind of difference, and then the Christian will also respect you for what you believe in the unity of God, uncompromised unity of God. He also holds it and he respects it. Now, this is what I would want, that even when we teach these different religions in our schools, we move beyond just the academic side of it, and then go to the practice of it, where we cherish the value of staying together, even in the variety of the religions that we respect. I also would expect that we focus so much on the value, on the common, on our shared values. You see, I mean, talk of traditional religion where there is love, respect for people, receptivity, hospitality. In the traditional setup, that is what you see. Come to Christianity, we talk so much about love, about compassion. Come to Islam, we talk so much about love, compassion, honesty, sympathy, attention, care, concern. I mean, come to these two religions, you find that we share this. I want to see a situation where when teachers are teaching this, they draw very sharp and impressive examples from the life of Christ, from the life of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and other great prophets of the world, and even including our traditional leaders who have passed. Some of the proverbs that are pregnant with meaning. For example, the traditional person will tell you, "Obian chere akwara yankopon." I mean, for example, meaning that they believe in the omnipotent God is something that so
these are good points you make. Yeah. But in the general context of Islam, and what really well-known Islamic scholars and also Salafis say, and when we say Salaf, we're referring to the conservatives, so to speak, they tend to make references to the Quran. And for example, I also tend to make my own reference to the Quran, and in 2:191 it says, "And slay them wherever ye find them, and drive them out of the places whence they drove you out, for persecution is worse than slaughter, and fight not with them at the inviolable place of worship until they first attack you there. If they attack you, then slay them. Such is the reward of disbelievers."
Exactly.
Do you think that in the current world of of Islam, perhaps there's a certain level of ambiguity about how the interpretation of the Quran is conservatively, and what should be the liberal interpretation of the sections of
some of those texts, and so on and so forth. And I think I have said several times that because when the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, left Mecca, you know, like I told you, in Mecca, singularly, exclusively, he was the prophet who was receiving revelation and was giving the teaching. When he came to Medina, he had an additional function to perform, because in Medina he became in as a recognized leader. So he became in fact, in today's language, the president. And in that particular situation, he was confronted with an opposing force. So he was compelled into fighting. So some of the revelations that were coming were indeed in the context of war and was guiding the prophet as to what he must do. Yeah. So such revelations, in the way I'm interpreting them, that they're circumstantial. They're circumstantial. They do not represent the core principle of the religion in itself. But if an interpreter forgets himself to understand the context of the revelation, and he makes a general interpretation of the text, so now he makes it like that is the principle, then he will be misguiding his listeners. I am very sure that, look, there are certain verses, or chapters of the Quran today. If you have, let's say, 500 young people sitting in front of you doing the Quranic interpretation, let's say, for example, in Ramadan, where we have the tradition of doing Quranic interpretation from different scholars and exhibiting their ability to do it. Now, if you happen to be one of such scholars and you have 500 Muslim young people around you, and you interpret certain texts of the Holy Quran out of the context of it, I believe, I will say it here without fear, that you will edge them, you will incite them into violence because of how you put it, because you do not give them the correct historical context within which the revelation was made.
Now, in this era where we have Al-Shabaab in Somalia, Boko Haram in northern Nigeria, we also have a sect somewhere in Algeria that may be killing other people, especially Westerners, etc. How does it put pressure on those who think that the interpretation of the Quran in itself should be liberal, and the way in which Muhammad perhaps initially may have intended it to be interpreted?
I would not even say liberal interpretation, but I would rather say correct interpretation.
Okay, correct interpretation.
Because, I mean, Islam is Islam. It's been Islam from the day that it was revealed till now, till the day when God brings the whole world into end. It will be Islam. The way I am interpreting Islam, in my view, is an enlightened understanding that I just want to put across, a genuine one, which I think that Islam should not be made to appear as if it's a threat to human survival. I mean, I would not accept to belong to a religion that is seen to be a threat, I mean, to the survival of.
So you're saying those who tend to do the extremist interpretation are not being true to the word?
Yes, and I also put in given a wrong interpretation, that creates a wrong interpretation and a bad interpretation.
Your interpretation could put you into some serious jeopardy in some jurisdictions.
In some countries, yeah. That one I believe strongly, that I cannot sit openly in some other countries and speak the way that I'm doing. And that is what makes Ghana a special place. But I think that my voice can go far away to allow people to reconsider their interpretation and how they allow such interpretations to guide them in their lives. And Islam has been Islam as it has been. That's why I want such people to reconcile such texts that relate to war and text in the same Quran that relates to social relationships, respect for other people's religion. It's same in this same Quran. For example, the Quran tells me in recognition of other religions that do not insult other people for what they worship, because if you do, they will.
The Quran says that.
The Quran says so. So the text itself gives recognition to other religions.
Just like in many respects, we say that the Bible in many sections are misinterpreted. there could also be some misinterpretation depending on the jurisdiction in which you are.
Yeah, let me even add that. For example, if you take the Bible, for example, you take the issue of wars in the Old Testament. There is something in the Bible that we call the just war, for example. Go in Numbers and in other this in the Bible.
For example, you go to the book of Genesis, Exodus,
a number
and all
of
that.
Wars.
Joshua and etc. They were all involved.
No pastor will tell you, because I have found this in the Bible.
Go to war and fight for your faith.
I must go to war. In much the same way, the Quran has made certain revelations, particularly in the Medinan revelations, in which case there was a condition of war. So that one we don't apologize, because it is a circumstance that demanded that sort of thing. And let me add that. For example, look, in our pledge, I don't think any Ghanaian will feel apologetic about it. Our heritage won for us through the blood and toil of our fathers. We killed, and we were killed because we had to fight for our independence. I know Ghanaian feels, and there are other traditional communities in Ghana here, both in the north, in the south here.
It doesn't mean you have to be violent here.
Exactly, that's what I mean. But the circumstance warranted at one time that we fought with the white people, our colonial masters.
Do you think that the general atmosphere of Western civilization and the way it has permeated many societies and influenced their customs and traditions? We're not necessarily only talking about Africa, but you go to Asia, Southeast countries, you talk to India, etc. And influence morally their cultural systems, etc. Sometimes tends to posit religions against the other.
Oh yeah, I mean that that one is true, and the attempt by the West through colonial systems to impose the superiority of their philosophy, their understanding, their traditions, and break down the roots of our traditional values and so on and so forth. And that's why I find traditional people here in Ghana are all the time in arms against the Western. Anytime you bring in some Western, you find that not Muslims, but traditional chiefs, for example, are sharp in their criticism, of the Western systems. And so anywhere there has been such clash of values, it has generated some kind of, but I hope that we rather don't go violent, but use wisdom to be able to really reconcile and hammer more on the common values.
And even in addition to that,
yes,
the extent by which we have extreme westernization of our society.
Yes.
You have on TV and radio,
yeah,
almost naked women going about in video clips, etc.,
yes,
saying they're singing. And that also tend to influence young people and the way they tend to behave and also tend to act responsibly.
Exactly.
How does that tend to influence the way religious experts like you and also believers tend to interpret their
we are so worried.
books?
I mean, through the what we call entertainment today, and they say humans sometimes also need, so the media, for example, for education, for information, for entertainment. So we have opened up too much for such, negative things. And they say what you see too much repeatedly reaches a certain template in your mind. What you even dislike, the more it is presented to you, you tend now even to become so habituated, and then you accept it as the value. And so it gives us worry. It gives us worry, licentiousness, lewdness in life, so much indecent exposure of women, and all put together in what we consider today as modernity, that it's as marks of advancement, as progress. I think that we have a weird understanding of what progress means in life. So today, if the young girl is coming and she doesn't come out in that, I have asked a simple question.
Even in Muslim-dominated communities.
Seriously, now my children and other people's children are suffering. But because in my home, I have made my daughter to understand that this one doesn't represent progress. For you to expose yourself indecently doesn't represent. So it's part of her mindset now. So when she's going out,
she's properly
dressed. That sort of thing. But unfortunately...
But as a society, how do you think that perhaps we can progress with some of these ideal values that we have? And making sure that we have very much tolerance of other religions that will ensure national progress?
I think that two key platforms. One, at the family level. The family is key. Whatever value you uphold as a father, as a mother, as a family, you should be able to inculcate those values. Not through violence, not abuse of children, no, but the way you live and the way you engage the children and you pump this into their mindset. I have few children with whom I sit down to talk. We open the Quran together sometimes. My children raise questions and we do that. And I believe that if all families, elders in families must become the role models, lead decent lives so that the children, and then the school system should be used strongly. Like the issue of tolerance that we're talking about. Heads in senior high schools and basic schools should be able to see how they treat children of other faith with respect, negotiate with them so that even things they don't understand, they come to understand. And gradually, why should we allow, like, say, a Muslim children to go to church and sit down there? If the Muslim child fails to understand this, they should not use the school authority to impose that, but then negotiate with the child. No, we don't intend to convert you, but probably this has an advantage for you to understand us better. And then beyond that, then you allow the Muslim child also to practice religion in a certain way that makes him feel accepted and respected. But that if you do it in a certain disrespectful manner, you sow the seed of hate in that child, and he grows seeing the non-Muslim teacher as an enemy anywhere he sees him. But that if we do it in a very tolerant manner, and much the same way when we have these children in a Muslim school, Muslim authorities should treat non-Muslim children with respect and recognition so that then we are able to blend together.
Well, thank you very much. And Sheikh Arimiyao Shaibu, he is an Islamic scholar, and I've known him for a long time as an educationist also, and thanks for joining us. In your community, do you still have the program you have with the USAID, I believe? Oh, yeah. We've finished the project, and we are looking forward for another opportunity so that we can still reach out in the community and give more education. Education is what can transform our society. And I hope if anywhere I get an opportunity, I will take advantage of it so that my community will be transformed through education. Well, thank you very much. And Sheikh Shaibu joining us this morning, but especially talking to us about the subject of religious tolerance and how as a people we can make sure we comprehensively ensure there's national cohesion for development. Thanks for joining me. We're taking a break. We'll be right back.